fortunate one. Paradise must be won. Paradise must be won each day and each night, through darkness and through light. Cry it out to the world. Spread the word. Spread the word of Islam.
Modernism has no place in Islam. There are no versions of Islam. We don't have moderate Muslims, extremist Muslims, Friday Muslims. We really don't have them. We just have Muslims. Modernism is a trend which challenges Islam right now and Muslims. We can summarize that ancient approach as reason over revelation. Reason over revelation. Al-aql ala an-naql. The mind given precedence over what has been revealed. Reason and rationality. We should approach things from a reasoned and rational way and not according to revelation. This was expressed a long time before. From a few hundred years after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, a movement arose which was called the Mu'tazilites, Al-Mu'tazila. And they promoted the same idea, reason over revelation. And as a result, they created turmoil in the Muslim world. However, the Muslim world recovered and brushed them aside. In our times, from the 20th century, it is coming back at us again. And people are calling to reanalysis of Islam. It is not good for our times. We need to reassess. We need to revive, to change in order to be able to survive in the 21st century and beyond. The idea of change, changing with the times, may sound very attractive. However, the fact of the matter is that if Islam was really from Allah, from God, then it should be good for all times. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on one occasion, when he sat with his companions, he drew a line in the sand. And then he drew lines on either side, branching off. And he explained to the people, to his companions, that the line in the middle was his path, the path to God. And the lines branching off on either side were paths of deviation, misguidance, with a devil at the end of each one calling people to it. And then he recited a verse from the Quran, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. This is my straight path. So follow it, and do not follow the many other paths. And in that way, deviate. These paths will deviate, take you from that path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The path of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one path. It is a path which is good for not only his time, but for all times. It was a path which has its roots in the Quran, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was based on human nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Almighty, who knew what would happen in human society, what changes would take place. He knew the needs of that society, and he prescribed laws which would guide them until the last day, because he sent his last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, the message was the last message. And that last message was to be a source of guidance for humankind until the last day of this world. Therefore, the issue of modernism, which basically calls Muslims today to not be precise and concerned about the legal aspects of Islam, but to focus more on the devotional aspects, the spirit of Islam, not the letter. This movement focuses currently on female issues, the oppressed Muslim woman. She needs to be brought into the 21st century. Statistics which were mentioned to me today by a non-Muslim, that the most uneducated segment of society here in India is Muslim women. Most uneducated. So what does that mean? Does that mean that Islam is antiquated? It is outdated? It cannot provide a drive and a force and a means for women to be educated like men? What does it mean? Well, I answered that lady's question when she asked with the fact that seeking knowledge is compulsory on every Muslim, as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said. No distinction between male and female. It is compulsory on both. Furthermore, the first generation of Muslims who conveyed Islam to us in its entirety, the superstructure of Islam built on the infrastructure of the Quran. The fourth most prolific narrator of this structure of Islam from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the Prophet's wife, Aisha. She was the fourth most prolific narrator of hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. And a generation of scholars studied under her. So, were it that Islam discouraged learning for women, then the Prophet's wife, Aisha, would not have been among the leading scholars of that generation. So really, Islam does not discourage women from education. In fact, it encourages education among women. However, it is within certain bounds certain principles. That Islam does look at the role of the woman in the family and consider it to be primary. This is priority, that she look after the family. To be educated and look after the family, that is ideal, that is best. However, as I pointed out to the lady, when people talk about the statistics of the uneducated Muslim woman in India, I suggested to her that we should also look at the other set of statistics about the number of aborted females in India. The children whose lives are taken while they're in the womb. Where is this? Is this amongst the Muslims? No. The highest percentages are among other than Muslims. The right to life, which Islam enshrines, forbids the taking of the life of the fetus. So, not to say that there are not some Muslims who are disobedient and get involved in this practice also. Yes, there are Muslims who are involved in it too, but not on the scale as the non-Muslims. Because Islam teaches that the right to life is primary. Taking that child's life is prohibited. So if I had to choose, as I said to her, between an ignorant Muslim woman who protects the life of her child and an educated non-Muslim woman who will destroy her child, I will say I will choose that uneducated Muslim woman. So the Muslim woman who comes under attack. On one hand, we have to admit that Muslim men have been delinquent in their fulfilling their responsibility to educate their women. There is delinquency here. Muslims have not fulfilled their Islamic obligation of educating the women amongst them. There is failure. Failure not in Islam, but on the part of Muslims. So what needs to be done here is not modify the teachings of Islam, but wake up Muslims to the responsibility of educating their women. So we don't need to modernize, because Islam never encouraged the ignorance of women. It encouraged their education. Also, with regards to women and their education, as I said, Islam goes a step further, and it stresses that women who are seeking education should do so in fields which are beneficial to the community, not just education for the sake of education, which will put them in situations which are un-Islamic, but education for the benefit of the community. So it has an outlook. It does focus on the need of the community. It does address the need, for example, to have Muslim female doctors and dentists who would serve the needs of the females. The other society doesn't care. Male, female, anything goes. He's a doctor, you can go to him. Well, that doctor is a man. Regardless of the oath that he swore and everything else, he's still a man. And as a man, if women are taking off their clothes in front of him, he is going to be affected. And as such, the numbers of cases of women who are abused, who are molested by doctors is many. There are many cases of it happening. Maybe it's kept quiet to some degree. People are ashamed. But it is happening on a big scale. In America, people are not ashamed. They will speak out against it. So there are many, many, many cases on record. Doctors jailed for molestation of their patients. Many cases. So Islam says protect the women by educating women to be doctors and dentists so they can serve the need that women have and protect them from harm and protect their faith and protect their religion. And the attacks on Muslim women don't end there. There are attacks concerning divorce laws, concerning inheritance laws, marriage laws, dress, etc. There are many. For the most part, either what is being called for addresses a failure amongst Muslims, where Muslims may be involved, as our brother mentioned, in the evil practice of taking mahar from the women, the family of the women. An evil practice and a custom which comes from another tradition and which leads to the death of thousands of women in this country every year. They call them bride burnings, where that woman's family is not able to provide the money which was promised, or they want more and they can't provide more, so the husband, the young man, and his mother catch the bride in the kitchen, pour kerosene over her, and set her on fire. Thousands of cases of this every year. In order to try to deal with it, the government has banned this mahar business. And some women have reported men who tried to demand mahar. Few. But Islam had the solution right from the beginning. The mahar was to be given by the man to the woman, not even to her family, to the woman, symbolic of his preparedness to look after her. This is the correct way. We apply that and the problem is solved. Nothing new. It is the other society which had to introduce new laws to stop it. Islam already had the laws 1,400 years ago. If we leave the realm of the women and modernism, the other area of attack is from the field of science. Of course, the attack here is weak. It doesn't have the kind of strength that scientists had, secularists had with regards to the Bible and the Torah. Because there are many, many contradictions in the Bible and the Torah when it was placed in front of the scientific facts. In fact, in the Quran, what we find is that scientifically, what is mentioned in relationship to science is consistent with scientific facts. There is a portion of things which are mentioned. There's a portion of things mentioned which science doesn't know about. It doesn't say exists or doesn't exist. It doesn't know about it. It doesn't say it is wrong. It can't because it doesn't have knowledge of it. But what it has knowledge of and what Islam speaks about in the Quran is consistent with modern science. So what the modernists do is that they leave the Quran and they go then to what? To the Sunnah. The Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they try to attack that. And they take out, for example, the hadith of the fly. This is one of the popular hadiths which modernists like to use to discredit hadith literature. which is the explanation of the Quran. They take out the hadith of the fly. What does the hadith of the fly say? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if a fly falls in your drink, dunk him in, push him in under the water or the milk or whatever, and throw him out and finish your drink. Because under one wing of the fly is disease, and under the other wing is the cure. So they say, doctors, Maurice Bucaille wrote about this in the back of his book, The Quran, the Bible, and Science. Doctors only know from the fly disease. The fly flies on diseased things and it brings those diseases to people. Flies are known for disease, so we don't know of any cure, so this hadith cannot be acceptable, cannot be authentic. Even though it is found in the most authentic books, we reject it because it contradicts, as they say, science. But really, does it contradict science? No, it doesn't. The hadith of the fly does not contradict science, really. It speaks about something which science doesn't know. That's all it's doing. Science knows about the disease, right? And the Prophet ﷺ 1,400 years ago pointed out, this is another point of the hadith that people don't reflect on. People 1,000 years ago, 1,400 years ago, didn't know that there was disease coming from the fly. The Prophet pointed it out 1,400 years ago, that it is a carrier of disease. But he also pointed out that it is a carrier of the cure. Science confirmed after the development of the microscope, where they could see microbes and the diseases which the fly carries, they said, yes, the fly carries disease. That's 16th century. 16th century. 1,000 years after the time that the Prophet ﷺ said that there is disease in the fly. Since then, they didn't investigate to see if there could be a cure from the fly also. It's just assumed it's just a source of disease, and that's it. Finish. End of story. However, if we were to have said to somebody in the 1900s, we said to them that in snake poison, the poison of the cobra, there is medicine for heart disease. What do you think they would have said then? Yeah, sounds reasonable. They would have said, you are mad. You are insane. It is known that if a cobra bites you, the poison will stop your heart and you will die. Yet today, there are cobra farms. Bangladesh is well known for it. Cobra farms where the poison of the cobra is milked from the cobra, and extracted from it is medicine used for heart patients. That is the fact of science. The snake has in his own body the poison which could kill him along with the antidote. If he didn't have the antidote, every time he bit something, he would kill himself. So he has the antidote within him. And there are many other plants in the plant in the kingdom, it is known, that have both disease and cure.
Spread the word, oh man. Spread the word of Islam. Oh, fortunate one, paradise must be won. Paradise must be won each day and each night, through darkness and through light. Cry it out to the world.